creating some of these innovative capabilities for new missions from the ground up, particularly in space control, where we are investing in all categories of counterspace systems necessary to deter and defeat aggression in space. Additionally, we are aggressively pursuing more resilient space architectures that can withstand attacks and continue to operate through extended conflict. This includes expanding our Resilient Missile Warning and Tracking Initiative that provides life-saving alert to troops worldwide, and enhancing satellite communications to connect Joint Force units and commanders around the globe during battle. We are growing our space-based sensing and targeting architecture to hold adversary forces at risk through space-based AMTI and GMTI anywhere in the world. But the added manpower and missions and capabilities require commensurate increases to the structures that support them. So the FY27 budget request also includes the required MILCON to ensure our Guardians are fully supported. The Space Force has laid the organizational foundation, defined the compounding threat, and delivered the blueprint required to counter it. Now we must build those structures and systems to ensure domain superiority for years to come. Although our growth request looks large in a vacuum, the request is actually quite small relative to the overall budget, and I think this payoff is significant. With continued advocacy from Congress, our Guardians stand ready to deter aggression, protect our space-enabled way of life, and if called upon, fight and win. As I conclude my final presentation to this committee as the CSO, let me say thank you for enabling our successes and for the opportunity to highlight the exceptional work that our Guardians are doing every day to secure our nation's interests in, from, and to space. I look forward to your questions.
Great. Thank all of you for those opening statements. I'll recognize myself first for questions. Mr. Secretary, I want to start with the area that you touched on and General Saltzman just spent the last 2 minutes of his comments on, and that is acquisition. I was obviously pleased to see the significant increase in the Space Force budget. As this service has matured, it needs those increased resources to operate in space and support the joint force. But to make sure that every dollar is spent effectively, the service must be laser focused on acquisition efficiency. To that end, as you are implementing the reforms passed by this committee and mandated by the department, are there any legislative changes you still need from Congress to further improve acquisition efficiency?
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate the question. Yeah, so as I stated in my opening comments, the end state is we want the PAE structure we have, the Portfolio Acquisition Executive structure we have, to have essentially the same authorities and same responsibilities across the entire Air Force. Similar authorities that were given into legislation to SDA and some others. So we would like to actually take all the acquisitions, whether it's SDA or any place else, and put them all into a common PAE structure. And we're looking for a little help to be able to do that. Because in the end,
do you have some language in mind that you want to tender to us?
We can provide that.
I would appreciate it.
Provide that. Essentially, what we want to do is give the same level of flexibility to operate at speed and deliver capability rapidly to all the PAEs across both the Air Force and the Space Force. So we're looking to do that. In addition, I think there are some additional authorities relative to multi-year procurement and those sorts of things that will make it easier for us to execute those types of authorities. And I think we're looking at potential language to suggest on that too. But those are probably the two big things.
Great. Well, I would offer to you that one of the things that I've heard from the private sector is they like the new PAE system, but they are encountering, while there's good support at the top where the PAE is, in the bowels of the worker bees, there's still a culture that's requirements focused and hasn't broken away from that. So I would ask you to be mindful of that as we mature that new structure.
If I could, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman,
please.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, on that. Yeah, I was out at out talking to, I think, probably about 2/3 of the Space Force's PAEs last week. And that was a concern of those two, is how we manage that requirements process. So we're doing a lot to structure the PAEs and give them the authorities. But in line with that, we're also looking at how we do budgeting and requirements, the budgeting and requirements process within the department, to streamline that as well to get at that point.
Yeah, fewer requirements, the better. Next, I want to ask you about how the Air Force has implemented DRPM structure and is ensuring that General White is able to execute on his direction to deliver critical capabilities such as Sentinel with urgency.
Yeah,
with urgency.
I feel a bit fortunate in that both the DRPMs we work closely with, General White and General Gutlein, two of the DRPMs are two of the best acquisition officers we have in both the Air Force and the Space Force. So I'm pretty happy